I understand. I was inconsiderate, Naruto apologized.
He thought that they had thrown this birthday party only for himself, but he realized from his father's words that this party was just as much for celebrating his birthday as it was for the sake of everyone else gathered there.
By the way, where is Rumi? I can't see her anywhere, he asked as he looked around. As the saying goes, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Just as Naruto uttered those words, the wide doors of the party room opened, and Usagiyama Rumi stepped in, followed by her mother.
Normally, Usagiyama Yua was the type of woman who attracted everyone's attention when she stepped into a room. But at that moment, her daughter was firmly at the center of everyone's attention. Everyone is looking at us, Rumi whispered under her breath.
I know, right? I told you we should arrive fashionably late, Tilda, Yua told her daughter smugly.
Until then, everyone there had only seen Mirko wearing her pro-hero suit or some street-style casual clothes. She was like the definition of a tomboy. They had never seen her dressed like she was currently.
Her long white hair was tied in a high ponytail, she was wearing makeup for once, a white sweater dress was hugging her body tightly, and a pair of high-heeled white ankle boots completed her look. That dress would have looked comfy and rather modest on another girl, but on Mirko, it looked almost sinful due to how much her curves stood out.
She felt blood rushing to her face, and she had to fight hard against the urge to cover herself when she felt everyone's gazes on her. She wasn't even revealing anything indecent because the dress covered her up until her neck. But the sixth sense of her rabbit quirk made it even worse for her, because she could tell exactly what each one of them was looking at. Be confident, Rumi-chan, her mother said, pushing her softly from behind. You are gorgeous. Own it. Act like it.
As Mirko started walking towards Naruto, people's gazes on her grew in intensity when they noticed that the dress left her back completely exposed, down to her bunny tail. But she did her best to ignore them, focusing her attention on Naruto alone.
Can't take your eyes off me? Rumi asked with a grin, and rested her chin on her palm as she looked at Naruto.
Naruto, Rumi, Minato, Kushina, and Yua were seated at one table together. The parents were watching their interactions with shit-eating grins on their faces. It was not like Mirko was the only woman there. Midnight, Mount Lady, Makoto Tsukauchi, and Najire Hado, excluding Yua and Kushina, there were quite a few other beautiful ladies present at the party. But he only had eyes for her.
I've never seen you wear elegant clothes, he said.
That's because I don't have any, she laughed. My mom gave them to me. Did they fit me?
Is that even a question? You're gorgeous. In comparison, I look like a hobo next to you, he said, turning to show the holes in his t-shirt and jacket, through which the adamantine ceiling chains popped out. See? I told you he's going to love it, Yua said, all the while having a full of herself expression on her face. Yes, you were right, mother, Rumi said, letting out a sigh.
Don't forget the other piece of advice I gave you, Tilda. What advice? Naruto asked curiously.
Nothing for you to concern yourself with, Mirko said quickly.
Why not tell him, dear? You have to get started on that football team you promised me. Mother, Rumi yelled, her face beet red now.
Naruto joined Yua and his parents in laughter at her mortified, embarrassed face. Soon the waiters brought a large birthday cake on a cart.
Come on, make a wish, Kushina said as Naruto stood up and went to the cart. Glancing around, he saw that everyone was looking at him. I wish we could meet again like this next month. There weren't only grown-up heroes but former classmates of his too. Izuku, Gaara, Tokiyami, Todoroki, and 3 upperclassmen who had graduated 2 years ago too, Lemillion, Najire Hado, and Sun Eater. They were young, barely 18 and 20 to 21 respectively. It would be such a shame for them to lose their lives. He knew it was not realistic. They were going to war a few days later, and they were at a heavy disadvantage. Even so, he couldn't help wishing from the bottom of his heart that everyone there survived.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go all out from the start. So please, God, if you exist, take care of them too.
Making that wish, he took a deep breath and blew out all the 18 candles on the cake.
As everyone started singing the happy birthday song, the waiters started serving everyone a slice of the birthday cake.
Considering that everyone at the party was of legal age, alcohol was brought in too, and soon, a merry mood was installed as friends grouped and drank together. Others started dancing on the dancing ring, while others just drank and ate together, enjoying each other's company. The party was still in full swing after 1 hour, but the partygoers had long since forgotten about the birthday boy. "Come with me," Mirko said as she stood up from the table and took his hand in hers.
But I don't know how to dance. I've never danced, said Naruto, standing up reluctantly.
"Just follow me," she said, pulling him after her. Walking behind the rabbit girl, Naruto didn't know where to look. His eyes kept between her exposed back and that large, firm, and muscular ass that was every day on his mind. Looking back, she smirked and gave him a knowing look when she caught him in the act. Naruto felt himself getting hot under the collar when Mirko added an extra sway in her hips as she walked ahead of him.
To his relief, Rumi was not leading him to the dancing ring but towards the doors. "Where are we going?" he asked.
"Somewhere where we can be alone."
They were out of the large party room now, in the hotel corridor. They only took a few steps before Naruto found himself pushed against the wall, with Mirko pressing her chest against his.
She was taller than normal thanks to the high-heeled ankle boots she was wearing, but she was so short compared to him that even then, she still had to pull his face down to her so she could kiss him. He wrapped his arms around her, running his hands over her exposed back greedily as he pressed his lips against hers. Rumi moaned into his mouth when one of his hands trailed down her back and grabbed her ass, giving it a hard squeeze. She tried to break the kiss, but he turned around together with her and pressed her back against the wall, trapping her between the wall and his strong body. Leaving her no way to escape, he kissed her for all she was worth. Wait a minute," she said, gasping for air when she finally managed to push him away. "No, why should I wait? I have waited for this for more than 2 years."
Her face was red, and her breathing was heavy with arousal. But she didn't change her stance.
"There are cameras in the corridor."
"So, I don't care who watches us now. Come back to your senses, you horny bastard." She barked at him, her face getting even redder at what he was implying. He chuckled at her embarrassed face. "I have a room, just for the two of us, so shut up and follow me." "You've been planning for this," he said, realization dawning on him. Rumi didn't reply and just walked quickly ahead of him. He couldn't help smiling at her. But as she walked ahead of him and the sound of her high heels clanking on the floor reverberated in the corridor, his smile disappeared, giving way to a look of hunger.
He had always thought that Rumi was drop-dead gorgeous, but today she had cranked it up to 200%. The white sweater dress hugging her every curve while leaving her back exposed, and the long silvery ponytail bouncing with every step she took, had him mad with lust for her.
Lemon removed.
Eventually, their kiss came to an end, and Naruto gathered her smaller body into his arms, embracing her and pulling the covers over them. In a few days, they were going to go to war. They were going to fight against All for One and his army of 100,000 villains. The odds were stacked against them, and there was even a chance that one of them or both would not make it out alive.
However, at that moment, all worries about the future and all thoughts about the past disappeared. The only thing on their minds was the person in their arms. A mixture of contentment, happiness, and euphoria left them feeling as if they were high.
Naruto was the first to close his eyes and fall asleep. Rumi remained awake a few minutes longer. As she lied with her head on his chest, she thought,
It was worth waiting nearly 3 years for him.
It was the best day of her life. According to Japanese society, she was a woman out of her prime, a close to expiring Christmas cake that would be sold off in stores at a discount. An old woman who was unwanted and unneeded. Therefore, Rumi had taken a rather big gamble by deciding to wait for him until the age of 28. Mirko didn't know that adding up the years of his previous life, Naruto could be considered to be of the same age as her or even older. But she decided to put her trust in him and hope that his feelings for her were not temporary.
And it had all paid off. Nearly 3 years later, Naruto still loved her. He loved her more than ever, and her feelings for him were no different.
Her arms tightened a bit harder around him. She was not going to let go of him for anything in the world. Her determined thoughts aside, tiredness caught up to her eventually, and Mirko closed her eyes, falling asleep too. Chapter 48 Ravenous. The loud sound of a vacuum cleaner coming from the hallway woke him up, but he didn't want to open his eyes. He was exhausted. Due to the fact that he had not expected to spend the night at the hotel, Naruto hadn't brought his sleeping earmuffs with him. But when something soft and furry suddenly touched his cheek, he quickly opened his eyes and tried to sit up, only to finally notice the dark-skinned girl sleeping on his chest, half of her body draped over his. As for the soft furry thing that touched his cheek, it was one of Rumi's rabbit ears. Although she was sleeping with her head on his chest, her ears were long enough to reach his face.
Seeing her bunny ears twitching because of the noise and the way she was trying to bury her face into his chest to continue sleeping, made him chuckle. The rising and lowering of his chest, shaking her awake.
My goodness, she's adorable. The urge to hug her tight was too strong, and he did just that, waking her up completely. He grinned at how cute her sleepy face was and caressed the back of her head and at the base of her rabbit ears, making her let out groans of comfort. She crawled up until their faces were on the same level and pecked him on the lips. Morning, she said, and she brought her hand to his face to caress his cheek. Morning, he said too, smiling at her all the while. His smile was infectious, and she found herself smiling back too.
You look happy. We're finally together, he said.
We've been together for a long time already, dummy.
Yes, but it's different now. I can touch you now, he said, grabbing her by her thighs and pulling her on top of him. I can make love to you now.
Mirko moaned when he buried his face in her chest and kissed the valley between her breasts. Her breathing quickened when his hands ran up her thighs, feeling and squeezing her ass before giving it a soft smack. The weight of her heavy breasts on his face and the sensation of filling his hands with her ass cheeks had him raring to go in no time. Rumi was no different either. His kisses and groping quickly turned her on too. However, when she started grinding her hips against his, Naruto suddenly let out a yelp of pain. What's wrong? She asked, startled. As Naruto softly pushed her off him and the covers fell off them, he understood the cause of his pain. His thighs, hips, and even his waist were bruised badly. They were purple in color. He looked as if he had gotten into a car accident. In disbelief at what he was seeing, Naruto turned to look at Mirko, whose face suddenly flushed hard, the red color of her skin greatly contrasting with her long white hair.
God damn, Rumi, were you trying to kill me last night? You almost fucked me to death. I don't want to hear that from you. She shouted at him in embarrassment, pointing her finger at him self-righteously.
But she wasn't fooling anyone with the way that her flush extended from her face all the way down to her neck and the upper part of her naked chest. Look at what you did to me too. You beast. You animal. Taking a better look at her, Naruto noticed that Rumi's thighs and hips were similarly bruised, and there were red finger marks on her breasts, neck, waist, and ribs.
He chuckled awkwardly, and looked away.
HMPF. Whatever, I'm going to take a shower first, Rumi said, steaming with embarrassment, and quickly got out of bed. However, when she made the first step, her legs bent like rubber under her weight, and she fell to the ground in a heap. Startled, Naruto was quick to stand up to make sure she was alright, but he was no different, falling right as he got out of bed too. They burst into laughter when the ridiculousness of the situation dawned on them. Even as they supported each other, they couldn't stop laughing as they limped together to the bathroom.
Despite getting into the shower together, seeing how sore they were, and how they were hurting everywhere from the loving abuse they suffered at each other's hands, the previous night, the two of them didn't partake in intercourse again. Nevertheless, it took them nearly an hour before they came out. They took their time washing, massaging, and caressing each other's bodies gently and lovingly. It was a vastly different behavior compared to the night before, when they ravaged one another like a pair of beasts in heat.
Fortunately for Naruto and Mirko, they were not the only ones unfit to work and fight after the birthday party. The majority of heroes were sporting a hangover after partying and drinking all night. A text message sent by Nezu to the group chat they were all part of informed them that their final meeting would be held in 2 days, giving everyone enough time to rest and recover. It was the 20th of October. 1 week passed since the pro-heroes under Principal Nezu's leadership started the operation. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Currently, Naruto and Mirko were in Musudafu City together. They were standing atop the ruins of the enormous Ua barrier, watching the desolate scenery spread below their feet. Most of the buildings on Ua High's campus had been demolished or vandalized and everything of value had been looted. The Ua barrier and the woods surrounding the school still bore the terrible marks left by the Liberation Army's assault on the school in the following battle. Noticing that Naruto was staring blankly at a particular spot on the ground outside the campus, Mirko took his hand in hers and squeezed it softly. The rain and the passing of time had washed away the blood and the gore from the battle, but Naruto could still vividly recall in all its grotesque detail the scene of All Might's skinny body getting chomped in half by the high-end Nomu.
Suddenly, Principal Nezu's voice rang in his ears and shook him from his dark thoughts. Uzumaki-san, do you copy? Yes, Principal.
A fight broke out between two neighborhood gangs in the industrial district. They are regular people, not actual villains, so act accordingly. I've sent the location on your GPS.
Understood.
Once he terminated the call, Mirko grinned at him.
Race you there. He returned her smile. You're on.
Less than a minute later, Naruto and Mirko arrived in the industrial district, just as two groups consisting of nearly 30 people each were about to clash against each other. The speed of their sprint on their way there had brought along such a powerful gale of wind that their mere arrival had almost caused some of the lighter gang members to get blown off their feet.
The two gangs stopped dead in their tracks. What are you people doing? Mirko said in a loud voice, walking boldly between the two groups and stopping in the middle.
There was nobody among the gangsters gathered there who did not know who Mirko was. She was one of the most famous people in the country, known for her strength and thirst for battle. However, although they knew who she was, once they got over their initial surprise, their hesitation vanished. Go away, hero, the one who looked like the leader of the gang on the left said, putting as much vitriol in his voice as he could when he spoke the word, hero. We don't need your help. We don't need any heroes.
Unexpectedly, the members of the other gang took his side, despite being enemies, and started shouting too. Yeah, fuck off. We'll solve our problems by ourselves. Leave us alone.
Mirko suddenly stomped her foot down, and a massive rupture appeared in the street, instantly silencing all 60 of them.
Be reasonable and stop this nonsense. Go back to your homes. Unless you think you can take me on. In this case, I'll send you all to the hospital instead, she said, grinning at them menacingly.
A tense silence was instilled, and, for a few seconds, nobody made a move. A moment later, a sudden shout came from one of the female gang members on the left. "Screw you, bitch, water blade." A pressurized stream of water burst out from the woman's gauntlet in the shape of a flying blade, but Mirko easily evaded it. In the next second, the female gangster flew back as if she had been hit by a freight train and smashed into the wall of a nearby factory.
Everyone swallowed their saliva, realizing for the first time just how huge the gulf of power was between them. Untrained people with average quirks, and one of the top 10 ranked pro heroes of Japan. They had not even seen her moving.
Naruto chose to step forth at that moment too, his adamantine sealing chains coming out from his back threateningly. Watching Mirko's overwhelming display of power and seeing Naruto's infamous, quirk-canceling chains, come out had erased any thoughts of disobeying their words. Grumbling, swearing, and cursing under their breaths, the two gangs quickly turned around on their heels and left. On the first day that Naruto returned to Japan, he was disturbed and taken aback by people's outright hostility and hatred towards him despite that he was there to help them. He finally understood why Mirko and many other heroes had lost their hearts and motivation to continue helping people. Who could continue sacrificing their time and endangering their lives for the sake of others when all they received in return was hatred and scorn?
However, 1 week later, Naruto stopped paying them any mind. "We're only here to put an end to All for One."
For the sake of not tipping off All for One about their plans, Principal Nezu decided to make Izuku and Naruto become active in Japan and act like regular pro-heroes, or better said, vigilantes for a longer period of time. It was so that the villains would think that they just returned to Japan for the sake of helping people out, with no other deeper, hidden goals behind their actions. Under Principal Nezu's leadership, Izuku and Naruto were operating separately from each other, with different partners, but that was hardly an issue when Minato could teleport one to the other in the blink of an eye in case of an emergency. While Izuku partnered with various pro-heroes every day, depending on where he was needed, Naruto was always together with Mirko. Their extremely high mobility, overwhelming strength, and great familiarity with each other made them a highly efficient duo, solving most of the cases they were assigned to within minutes.
Once the members of the two neighborhood gangs went out of sight, Mirko let out a sigh.
"I'm tired of these ungrateful twats."
Naruto snickered at her rough language.
"Don't mind them. Once we're done with this operation and hunt down All for One, we'll go back to America and never set foot here again," he said indifferently. Mirko let out a long sigh before saying, "I have to admit, you're taking this way easier than I expected." If he were the same person as he had been in his past life, people's scorn and hatred for him would have greatly wounded Naruto. After all, getting other people to acknowledge him had been one of the strongest motivating factors for his actions back then. "I simply don't care about what they think," Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders. "You, my parents, my little sister, and, to a lesser degree, Izuku, are the only people whose opinions I care about." In his current life, Naruto didn't need other people's acknowledgement. He didn't need strangers' love and attention. Sure, as a pro-hero, it was part of his job to make himself likable and popular with the masses, but he didn't live in Japan anymore. Japanese people's feelings and opinions about him were meaningless.
"By the way, I won the race. I got here before you," he said, changing the subject out of the blue.
"No, you did not," she shot back, narrowing her eyes. "Yes, I did," he said, chuckling. "Imagine having a speed-based quirk and losing a battle of speed. I don't know what I would do if I were you."
"Careful, Icarus," she said in a warning tone, narrowing her eyes at him.
Naruto burst into laughter. "Ooh," he exclaimed, pretending that he was scared. "My timbers have been shivered." A cloud of dust was suddenly kicked up as Mirko launched herself at him.
Naruto was quick to react and rolled away, dodging her charge before bursting into a mad dash too.
"You said you're faster, right? Let's see how long you can run until I get my hands on you." she shouted after him. Naruto laughed out loud on purpose to make sure she heard him, but he didn't lower his speed in the least.
Luna Art.
A heavy kick, partially cushioned by his fox tails, smashed into his back, and Naruto flew down from the rooftop of the factory he was on, crashing onto the street with a heavy thud. She's just too fast in a straight line, he thought as he let out a groan of pain. He instantly sprang up to his feet, barely managing to avoid Mirko's following Luna fall, super move by backflipping and bursting into another sprint, choosing a narrow alley between two buildings this time around. His hopes were dashed, however, when a shoulder charge smashed into his back again and he found himself pressed flat against the wall. "I got you now," Rumi shouted triumphantly, despite her heavy breathing. He could do nothing but laugh. Having Mirko chase him at full speed never stopped being exhilarating to him.
She let go of him, and Naruto turned around before letting himself slide down against the wall and sit directly on the ground.
Arera Tilda. What were you saying? Something about beating me at my own thing. Something about being faster. You win. You're faster, he said, raising his hands in defeat. You seem even faster than before. Mirko came to him, and, grabbing Naruto by the hem of his jacket, she lifted him up to his feet. Is that it? Don't tell me you thought you could weasel your way out of this with words alone.
Irrespective of his will, Naruto's foxtails twitched when a peculiar scent wafted off of her, overwhelming his sense of smell. What do you have in mind? He asked as if he didn't know what she was talking about and licked his lips.
One of Mirko's hands let go of his jacket and slowly ran down his chest. Oh, don't play coy now. You know exactly what I have in mind, Rumi said, her hot breath reaching his lips with how close her face was to his.
Lemon removed. Inwardly, in a corner of her mind, she was almost scared of her own actions. Terrified of how much she craved his touch, his love, and the pleasure he was giving her. A thought came to her mind.
Is this what my mother was talking about? Is this what pushed her into a promiscuous lifestyle?
Is this lust? This hunger? The nature of a rabbit?
Will I become insatiable like her one day too? No, have I already become like her too? Oh, God, we've just had sex in public, on the street, in broad daylight. Oh my God, what does he think of me after what I just did? However, as Naruto returned her hug and embraced her tightly to his chest, Mirko's worries and thoughts of self-loathing disappeared from her mind. At that moment, nothing else existed except for him and his warmth.
The two of them stood in each other's arms for a long time, just basking in the warmth and intimacy of their embrace. They only came back to their senses when the comms in their ears came online again, and Principal Nezu's voice rang in their ears.
Mirko, Uzumaki-san, how fast can the two of you get to Mount Fuji? Can you get there quickly, or should I send your father to pick you up and teleport you there? Why, what happened? Mirko asked as she and Naruto broke their embrace. A group of hikers was attacked by a villain who caused a rock slide. 2 people were killed, and several others were injured. He let the survivors leave, all except for the son of a wealthy businessman. The villain kidnapped the boy and is holding him hostage now, demanding a ransom. He told the survivors to let the boy's father know that if he doesn't bring 100 million yen tomorrow at 8 a.m. at the start of the Yoshida Trail, he'll kill his son. No need to call Dad, said Naruto. We're still in Musudafu City, less than 100 kilometers away from Mount Fuji. We'll be there in 10 to 15 minutes tops. Once Naruto set his GPS's destination to Mount Fuji, he and Mirko started running.
As they ran, Principal Nezu continued speaking in their earpiece.
The villain went into hiding, but I'm hoping that you will be able to find him with your superior hearing and sense of smell. Don't worry, Principal, we got this. It was the 27th of October. A bit over 2 weeks passed from the start of the operation. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind.
Finally home, Naruto muttered, when he and his father appeared in front of their home's entrance door. I know you're tired, but hold on. It's almost over, Minato said in encouragement, patting him on the shoulder.
Naruto nodded wordlessly and went ahead to open the door. Before he could touch the door handle, the door suddenly opened, and someone jumped into his arms. It was Rumi. His frowning face involuntarily turned into a smile as he buried his face into her long white hair and wrapped his arms around her back too. Ah, young love, his father chuckled and went inside ahead of them, tactfully giving his son and his future daughter-in-law some space. When Minato closed the door after him, Rumi pressed her lips to his, kissing him gently. How is your arm? Is it better? He asked. The day before, Mirko injured her arm when she pushed Naruto away from a robot's laser blast, taking the hit instead of him. They had been in the middle of raiding the warehouse of a criminal organization, destroying and burning down tons of methamphetamine worth dozens of billions of yen. It was just a flesh wound. Normally, I wouldn't pay any mind to a scratch like this. You're just being a worrywart, she said, pecking him on the lips again. Come, let's go upstairs, she said as she took his hand in hers and led him inside the house. Seeing as it was noon in Florida, it was 13 hours behind Japan. Eri was at school and his mother was at her dojo. Other than his father, who was just as exhausted as he was and went straight to his bedroom to sleep, there was nobody else at home. Instead of going upstairs, Naruto stopped in the living room and plopped himself on the biggest sofa.
Wouldn't it be better to go sleep upstairs? Rumi asked when she saw him lie with his head on the backrest of the sofa, his arms and legs spread loosely. I don't want to sleep just yet. I want to spend a little more time with you.
Ah, she cooed teasingly and pulled him down to her. Come here. He didn't fight against her and let her do as she pleased, ending up lying on his side with his head in her lap. Despite her strong and calloused hands, Rumi's caresses were gentle as she ran her fingers through his spiky blonde hair. He snuggled closer to her and pressed his head deeper into her lap, greatly enjoying her soft touch. Mirko smiled at the involuntary groan of pleasure that he let out when she started lightly scratching his scalp with her nails, especially between his fox ears. So, tomorrow is the day, isn't it? She asked. Tomorrow, Izuku and I are going to attack Redestro and the Detonate Company. They are all for one's main source of income. There's no way AFO would just stand back and watch as we cause havoc. And once he comes out, my dad will teleport you and the rest of the team there, and we'll strike him down. We will finally put an end to this.